technically I graduated in 2002 because I took a fifth year. I should have graduated in 2001, but around that time was 9/11, and 9/11 ended up with a recession. And then not too long after that was 2008, and that ended up in, the Great Recession. And then not long after that, 2020, it's like, well, COVID hit. And now it's not so bad now. Now there's a whole nother there's a whole nother topic about politics. But now volatility seems to be kind of creeping back up. And the reason why I bring up these like 2001, 2008, 2020, and more recently in 2025 is because of this idea of what's called volatility. And volatility has to do with like market swings, like up and down and up and down and up and down. And some volatility indicators could be things like treasury yields, uh, how much it costs the government to borrow money. A major indicator is the VIX. And for the teens that are on the call still, the VIX is called the volatility index, and it's used based off of the future price of call options, which we'll learn about. And call options are what's called a derivative. It's derived its value off of an underlying stock. But the VIX also tells us it gives us some indication, future indication of where people think the market's going to go, up or down or up or down. There's inflation, like the consumer price index. There's consumer confidence. And you can see here, like I did the VIX historical. You can see a big spike here, here. That's, COVID. And then you can see a big spike in April here. That was Liberation Day, the day where Trump said, "Oh, tariffs plus reciprocal tariffs." And I don't know how you all feel about this, but it was always my thought that volatility would be dangerous. But with modern computing and advancements in computing, we can now use volatility to our advantage, and that's what I want to talk about on this next slide. So, a question for the parents and the teens, if you wanna chime in as well. If you have a taxable portfolio, meaning you have a portfolio of stocks or bonds that after every year you have to pay taxes on based off of the interest that you earned or the dividends that you earned or the sale of the product itself. So it's a non-retirement account. If it dropped 5% this year, which would you prefer? A, do nothing and wait it out. B, sell the investment and sit in cash. Or C, sell underperformers, capture losses, and immediately reinvest to stay on track. So that's a question that I have for adults and teens. If you wanna chime in, it'd be great to hear what you might think too.
Acadia says A. Cynthia say A.
Cynthia says A. Katie says A. Okay. Anybody else?
Nobody, no answers, no other answers. Someone says C.
C? Yep. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, Frederick say A.
A? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Okay, so this was a loaded question, and I'm going to say there's no wrong answer. There's definitely no wrong answer. And the reason why I say there's no wrong answer is because it does depend on who you are as a person. So, if we look at A, do nothing and wait it out, you might feel, I just want to remind you, this has to do with specifically, I'm talking about, we call it taxable brokerage accounts, so non-retirement account. But A, do nothing, wait it out. I'm saying here, you might feel so strongly about your positions that you hold that you just say, okay, I want to keep this. Like Warren Buffett, he's held Coca-Cola and Amex, American Express, and Geico for decades, right? And he may have. I didn't do deep research on this. The only research I did was, okay, I know that he's held these positions for a long time. I don't know What I don't know is, has he sold some of these positions along the way and bought along the way? I don't know, but he's held positions in these for decades. And if you're going to be the next Warren Buffett, maybe you want to hold on to your portfolio for decades. But what if you're in retirement and you say you need the funds? It's like, okay, well, B, you might want to sell the investment and sit in cash because you just don't know. Maybe you need it. Maybe you need it for retirement. Maybe you need it for a car. Maybe you need it for a home down payment. Maybe you need it for college education costs, for your kids. So B is the right answer too. And then C, sell underperformers and capture losses and then immediately reinvest and stay on track. This is a really great concept. It's been around for a while now, but it's gotten that much better and more efficient. Like I said, with like modern computing, this provides the ability to what's called tax loss harvest. And tax loss harvesting, to give you an example, is like selling Coca-Cola at a loss, but then immediately buying Pepsi. So you sell Coca-Cola, realize a loss. You can use that loss for your taxes, which gives you value today, and then let it grow back over time by investing in Pepsi. And let's just say all things being equal, Pepsi performs just as good as Coke. It's like, well, you didn't really lose anything. Instead, you extracted value out of that loss for your tax purposes, and then you were able to let it grow. So tax loss harvesting, by not doing it, depending on where you are in this spectrum of investments, you could be leaving money on the table. And down here, I talk about how much can you realize? Well, against income directly, every year you can realize 3,000. And then when it comes to actual gains, you can offset those gains in the future. Here is an example of kind of how that works. And this blew my mind. I was talking to JP Morgan the other day, and it just kind of blew my mind, like how much money they have realized in like 2022, how much money they've already realized in the first quarter of 2025. It's just mind blowing. So we use JP Morgan's products for some of our clients, and one of the products that we use has to do with tax loss harvesting. So the example here is, okay, let's say we started with $1 million portfolio, and within that year you lost $71,000 worth of value. You can sell those losses and then immediately buy. You can, like I said before, you can sell. Let's say you had a big chunk in Coca-Cola. You sell it and you lost $71,000, but then you bought Pepsi and you let it grow over time. But you can realize those losses. And you can kind of see the tax savings. Maybe this isn't eye-popping. It's maybe more eye-popping towards the end here. But I give you an example. It's like, okay, well, let's say we only did losses for 1 year and we realize those losses, and then the portfolio grows over time. Well, the portfolio after 8, 9 years of growth, even with those losses, can still be north of $1.7 million because we've stayed invested. We sold something and then we bought it right back. But because we sold, it's like we have this, I'll call it a tax loss capital account. So the beginning balance is like 71,000, and we get to use that. You realize it today, but you won't be able to use it until next year, right? Because you do taxes, after the year's done. You can immediately reduce your income by $3,000, and it's like, okay, well that might not be much, but if somebody said, "Hey James, I want to give you a $1,200 check," I wouldn't say no, right? So it's like, yeah, if somebody wants to give me $1,200, I'll do it. And what I'm showing here is like, let's say we have all these losses that we get to bank against our income, but then we finally sell in year 10, we get to write off the rest of it. But that value in tax savings is nearly $30,000 just from that 1 year. So that's something that I wanted to share with people. It's like, okay, there are methods that make it a lot easier to become more tax efficient, especially if you're a high earner, because high earners can pay up to like $40,000 or 40% in taxes. One from your marginal tax rate, and then other, which is Medicare adder, which in my term, I like to call it NIIT, net investment income tax. And then another example, similarly, okay, let's say you didn't use it for stock purposes, but let's say you used to offset your house, and you had like $1 million gain in your house, and you had tax losses of like 300,000 through this tax loss harvesting. You can offset that, and that $300,000 of losses, as an example, will offset those capital gains from your house, and that can save you like $70,000 in taxes. So those are just a few examples of how we can use a portfolio to work towards in your favor, not only for investment purposes, but for everyday things like selling your house as well.